Hey, this is attorney Elizabeth Potts-Weinstein, and today we're going to talk about whether you should create an LLC in 2023. So you may be thinking about, should I have a limited liability company for your business? And you could be in two situations. One is that you could have a pre-existing business, a sole proprietorship business or partnership that perhaps you've been running for a little while and now it's starting to make money. Now you're going to be working on it full time and you're thinking, should I convert to an LLC or corporation? Some of you may be starting a brand new business, and so you're thinking about, should I set up an LLC from the beginning? Now, first, I just want to get everyone on the same page of what is an LLC. An LLC is a limited liability company that is a legal entity, similar to a corporation, how a corporation is a legal entity. The difference is an LLC is a little bit more simple to run than a corporation. And that's one of the wonderful things about LLCs is that there's less required paperwork. And because here's the thing, if you have a corporation and you don't do all the required paperwork, then they might be able to pierce the corporate veil and say it's not legit. Since the LLC has less paperwork, it's less likely you're going to mess it up. So for most people, in most situations, that's a better option than a corporation. Not 100% of the time, and I have made some videos explaining the differences, and I'll link that up somewhere up here. But the reason people create LLCs typically falls under three different categories. One is about reducing liability. So for you as an individual, we don't want someone to be able to come get your house, come get your car, go take your money out of your personal bank account because something happened with the business. We want to create a difference between the business and you to shield you from liability that the business has for something that goes wrong. That's the first category. The second category is to save money on taxes. Now, that isn't true for everybody. It doesn't automatically mean that you save money on taxes if you form an LLC, but it is possible that in some situations you will save money on taxes. And so that's number two reason. The number three reason is kind of more of a marketing kind of reason. In some cases, for some kinds of businesses, having an LLC or even a corporation makes more sense for you to get your clients. Typically, this happens if you're looking for corporate clients. I see this a lot with consultants where they have corporate clients who they are required to be an LLC or a corporation or they can't get this job. And the reason is that the corporation doesn't want to have an accidental employee. They don't want to do just a plain old 1099. They want to hire another company. And so it makes sense in that kind of a case to have an LLC or corporation. But let's break it down for when do you want to actually make the switch. Those are the general categories, but let's look at when would a switch make sense for you. So first I'm going to look at an established business. So typically where I see this is you've had a business for months or years that you've been running as a side gig, as a hobby business, and now it makes money. Now you realize this actually is going to work. And so you're thinking, should I convert my business, my sole proprietorship or partnership business into an LLC? And typically the reason that you want to do this is, number one, if you no longer can pick your clients, you've grown your business and scaled it up such that you don't actually know who all your clients and customers are. People can just buy stuff from you. That's one great reason to form an LLC because you can't be picky about who you're taking on because they can just buy stuff from your website. And so you can't kind of screen out the dramatic people who might sue you, okay? And so the idea is you need more liability protection. Second reason is if you have employees. I think if you have employees, you should always form an LLC or corporation because there's so much liability that can happen with the employees having problems with you, with them doing something wrong, and then you're liable for what they do when you're not around. It just could be an absolute mess. And so if you have employees, then I highly recommend having an LLC or even a corporation. And the last reason is if you need to do more sophisticated tax planning. Typically this kicks in when your profits are somewhere in the high five figures. And the reason you don't want to necessarily do it just for tax reasons, well, the reason you won't necessarily have tax savings until you're making more money like that is because you have to factor in the complexity of your taxes. If you form an LLC, taxes and S corporation, which is how you would save money on taxes, by the way, you're going to have to file more different tax returns that are more complicated. They're not like TurboTax kind of tax returns. These are the kind of tax returns you probably would pay a tax preparer to do, a CPA or an accountant to do. You got to factor in $800, $2,000, who knows, whatever they charge for that. So you got to save on taxes more than that. And also all the other admin costs of just running something as an LLC versus running something as, for example, a sole proprietorship. So you need to be saving more on taxes, not just $1, but more like, $1,000, $2,000, something like that, for it to actually be worth it. And the reason you're saving money on taxes is because you can pay yourself in multiple ways. I've done some videos on this. I probably post one up here, but the idea is that you can pay yourself not just your, like a sole proprietor would just make distributions and they have to pay self-employment tax on that, income tax, all that stuff. But if you're paying yourself as an LLC tax, as an S corporation, then you can pay yourself both a salary as well as distributions. Distributions don't have self-employment tax on them. Okay, I know this is a whole lot of detail and really complicated. I just wanted to give you an idea of what we're talking about here. And so I have some videos linked above or below, wherever they are, that will go into that in more detail about whether or not that might apply to you. The second category is if you're starting a brand new business, of course. So then, should you form an LLC from the very beginning? So first, if you have a partnership, multiple owners in this business, I highly recommend that you start out with an LLC. While it is true that you could totally just start with a general partnership, the big danger of a general partnership is, which is the default, if multiple people start a business and they don't create a corporation or LLC, the problem is that you are personally liable for the actions of your partner, even if you didn't agree to it and they're doing it on behalf of the business. So if they go out and get a loan, if they go out and make a bad decision, do something bad with a client, you're personally liable, because everybody's personally liable for what happens for a general partnership. That's a very big risk. Now, you can have a partnership agreement with them that specifies a bunch of things in it, but that's not really binding on other people. So it can be a big, huge mess. So having an LLC can really help that way. And then you'd want to have an operating agreement for the LLC, which is like a partnership agreement that would go into things in more detail. Employees, just like I said before, if you were going to be hiring employees from the very beginning, you'd want an LLC or corporation. If you're going to be selling products online, this is something that it's very common to start out a business if you're selling products online, especially like handmade products, and it's just a side gig, so you start as a sole proprietor. And that can make a lot of sense from a strategic perspective because you're kind of testing the market. You're saying, do you like making these products? Does anyone want to buy them? Is it worth turning this into a real business? But the issue is anybody can buy these products for you. So it really depends on the kind of products that you sell. Some products have a potential for people to be harmed by them. There's also kind of drama that can happen if they're higher end products. Now, you can deal with some of these issues by having good insurance, by having product liability insurance, but it's something to consider. You may want to have both product liability insurance and having an LLC to protect you from those kind of drama liabilities from the customers who are buying stuff directly off your website. If you are going to need to get a loan or a line of credit for this business, to the extent possible, we want to shield you personally from the liability for that debt or line of credit. You may not 100% be able to shield yourself, even from an LLC or corporation, because typically, let's say you get a small business loan from the Small Business Administration for, $100,000 or $200,000, you'll probably have to co-sign that, at least up to a certain amount of money. If a smaller loan, you probably won't have to, but the idea is that you may end up having to co-sign it and be personally liable for at least some of that money, but what we're hoping is you won't have to be liable for all of that money. So forming an LLC or even a corporation is a way to shield yourself from those kinds of debts or from lines of credit, or even kind of more informal lines of credit when you're ordering inventory. Another reason is if you have large personal assets. If you have real estate, if your partner that you're legally married to has a whole bunch of assets, has a lot of income, you have a lot more to protect. You're potentially a person that someone may want to sue because they think that you're a deep pocket to get money from. So if you have a lot of assets, I think it totally makes sense to form an LLC and to shield the business from you. As I said before, if you're going to have customers or clients who are big corporations, they'd probably be more comfortable dealing with an LLC or corporation than with an individual 1099. In some cases, you may know that you're going to be making enough money where the tax planning is going to come into play. I've had some clients where they already had a bunch of gigs lined up that were going to be significantly in high 5 figures, low 6 figures. They knew they were going to need that kind of tax planning from the beginning, so it made sense to form the LLC right now. And then you would set up an LLC that is taxed as an S corp. And the final reason that actually comes up a lot is you may know that yourself and know that you want to, while you have time and energy to set up an LLC, you want to do it now and not have to switch later. I know that's actually very true for me. I don't want to have to do all this paperwork later when I'm busy running the business. I hate having to switch everything over. You have to get a new bank account. I mean, it's just so much stuff that you have to switch over when you convert a business from a sole proprietorship or partnership to an LLC. If you're going to be doing it in a year or two, it makes sense to start it from the beginning if you know that you don't want to have that kind of a hassle. Again, this is attorney Elizabeth Potts-Weinstein. If you found this video helpful, hit the thumbs up button, subscribe for more videos like this. Post something in the comments below if you have any questions about what we talked about today, and I'll try to point you in the right direction. And if you'd like to support the channel, you can look down in the description below on different ways you can support the channel, including joining the community Discord and signing up for Patreon. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye-bye.